Okay, um, I'm going to make a start. So, very good evening to all of you, and welcome to tutorial this week for FinTech. Um, Now, I actually invited. So, as you might know, this course has two tutorials, T1 and T2, and T1 actually is tonight on Thursday evening, and T2 actually is on Tuesday afternoon, which doesn't concern. Is any of you from that tutorial here? No. All right. Okay. There is someone from there, because we are not gonna. I mean, it doesn't concern you unless you are from that tutorial, and I wasn't planning to run a tutorial next Tuesday, just an hour before you are about to take the midterm. I don't see the point of doing that. So this week we are just going to run the tutorial for one time tonight, which is being recorded, as you can see. So for people who are here, so welcome. And for people who are not here, they can just have a look at that at home later on. So I'll put it online on YouTube. What I want to do this evening actually is to look at a number of loose ends from last week, and also to talk to you a bit more about the last lecture given by Bobby. Hello, 2 weeks ago. But before I do that, it may be a good idea just to talk a little bit about the midterm exam. Probably what's on your mind, quite a few of you. Now, I will talk about these other topics in just a moment. And just by way of housekeeping, so we have, as you know, exam one. Exam one is the exam on Bobby's material, and exam two is the exam on Xin Ming's material. You all know there is a project coming up that you have to work on, right? You're supposed to choose a company either in the fintech area and or an ICO with a valid white paper that you can work on. Now, have you guys actually decided what to do? Yeah? No? Okay, you need to hurry. I am going to set up a Google Sheet, where a public sheet where everyone can just go there and log on and put down the project you want to work on, whether it's a fintech company or whether it's an ICO. Okay. Let us know what is the name of the ICO or the name of the fintech company. Okay. We most likely will not have any objections to what you want to do, but just in case you work on something which is really out there, like crypto kitties or something, okay? Then we want to know, okay? So, but we just want to make sure it's not something totally silly, okay? But so it would help if you at least give us an idea. Is that okay? Yeah. Now, the earlier you let us know there is a problem, or if there is no problem, the earlier we can come back to you. Is that okay with everyone? Yeah. Okay. So I'll set up an Excel sheet very soon. Okay. Now let me. So the next lecture is going to be, well, next week we are going to start with the midterm first, which will be 6:30 in Lee Kun Chun building, and I hope you all know where it is. Okay? Do not take the bus. You do not need the bus. Okay. So that starts at 6:30 on Tuesday night, and then after the exam, which will be 75 minutes, It's multiple choice exam, 1 hour and a quarter. Okay. Then we may just take a short break, and then we'll have short lecture. So that will take us to 6:30, 7:45, 8 o'clock, maybe an hour and a bit. Okay. And I'll tell you a bit more in a moment. Okay. So now, regarding the exam, I think it's yeah. Let me just say a few things on that. Okay. How should I organize my revision? Okay, that's what that says. And I would advise you to focus on 3 areas, okay? And the questions will be based on these. The first one is the lecture notes themselves provided to you by Bobby. The second part is you would notice that in a lot of the tutorial slides, there is supplementary commentary with references to the lecture notes themselves. Now, some of these were actually developed by Bobby, or he gave me instructions to share with you some further details that he either was not able to provide or he did so verbally during his class. So so we've committed some of this on paper. So those you will know, you will see, you will recognize them when you see them. In fact, even this evening, okay, even this evening, there's a lot of stuff I can share with you in this context. Okay, there are other things like when I talk to you about the like Ponzi scheme. Okay, I don't think it's gonna ask you where that came from. Things like when the Bitcoin futures market first came online and things became totally wacky between the Bitcoin, the physical market, if you can call it that, and the derivative market. Okay, so that I wanted to share with you for interest, and I even show you a futures, what was it called? Commitment of Traders report. So those things are just for interest. Okay, but there's a lot of stuff that has references to actual pages in his notes, and those will be would contain material that he can ask you things on. Okay. Now the third dimension, which actually has less coverage, to be honest, okay, is some of the reference reading. Okay, I'll come to that in a moment. So please remember to bring a pencil, an eraser, and if you forget this, I can't help you, honestly. Okay, I don't have 35 pencils to give out. It just makes it more challenging for you if you don't. It's not the end of the world. You can use a pen, but you can't change your mind, okay? Or it gets very messy. So please bring a pencil and an eraser. Okay? If you really don't have a pencil, or if you forgot for some reason, or your pencil broke down, then maybe you just want to go tick, tick, tick all your answers. And when you are really sure, in the last 10 minutes that you are not going to change your answers, okay, then you start filling in the bubbles with a pen. Okay? You are going to bring a pen, right? At least, yeah, I hope. Okay, you are going to bring something that you're going to write with. Okay, how about that? Okay, now, so revision strategy is my advice to you. I'm not going to tell you what's in it. Of course, I can't do that. But my advice to you is that you actually have learned more than you think, honestly. Okay, if you read Bobby's slides carefully, I know he shares a lot of news stories, and you say, "Oh wow, okay, that's really cool," but how am I going to get examined? So there are pages like that, but there are also other pages that do contain solid information with numbers or other factual, material, and be very sensitive to slides that either contain figures, P&L, company performance, amount of money invested, okay, China, US, Japan, who's 1, 2, 3, for whatever business segment or whatever initiative. So don't just read them. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, next page. Okay, try to absorb it and try to get an appreciation of what is the trend, or where is this particular market going, because he will quiz you on that. Okay, why are some fintech businesses or some companies are doing better than others in whatever area? Okay, where's the money going? There are some concept questions. Okay, and in order to answer them, blockchain is an obvious one. Okay, I wouldn't be breaking any rules by telling you that there will be questions on blockchain. We spend so much time talking about it. Yeah, but the other segments like insure tech or wealth tech or reg tech, mobile payments, and like I said, just a little earlier, you have learned. I looked through all the slides in the last few days, and then I realized, okay, there is actually quite a bit of stuff that he can quiz you on. Okay, so when you read slides with actual hard data meaning numbers and facts and market focus, don't just gloss over it and then okay, turn over next page. Okay, next, try to appreciate and try to absorb it. Okay. Now, in terms of concepts, so this is not a full list. Okay, but I try to do something to just help to focus on your scope. So the Zhong'an IPO obviously was a very topical deal to happen at that time. Mobile payments, do you know what these are? Who are the main players? And what's been the development and so on? Okay. Blockchain. What do you understand? We're not going to ask you anything on programming, okay? But I think at the very least, I think you should try and watch those videos that we provided to you. And fiat money, we did spend time talking about that, and I showed you examples and versus commodity money and representative currency. I think if you really get a better philosophical understanding of those pieces of paper that are inside your wallet in your pocket, okay, if you understand that, it actually helps you understand cryptocurrencies a bit better, okay, because they also kind of come from nowhere. Okay, artificial intelligence and what has been happening on that front. Again, where are the investments being directed at? Who is big on that? which country and which industry and so on. Okay, P2P lending is an aspect of fintech with a rather bad name. But there was also this Cleveland Fed, the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland, did a piece of research, and they had some interesting findings. Okay, cryptocurrencies being, a significant and I guess a prominent part of, the blockchain ecosystem. It's not the only thing. Okay, ICOs. Now I do know that Xinming started talking about it, but this is more from a preliminary context. The first lecture or two. So it would be at a more elementary level. Okay, and then what are these things? InsurTech, WealthTech, RegTech, and again, there are slides associated with these. Okay, some of them contain data or market trends. Okay, and then big data, last but not least. Okay. Now, with regard to the reference readings, there are, I think, 4 pieces. So there is the FSDC paper, Financial Services Development Council of Hong Kong. There is the presentation by Robert Merton. There is a paper on the economics of cryptocurrencies produced by MIT. And there is an IMF discussion paper on fintech and fintech services. I actually, now some students were saying to me that, hey, look, Sam, these some of these papers have like 50 pages to read, and what am I supposed to do? Okay, and so some questions will come from these. Okay, but you don't have to, and you cannot, and you shouldn't have to memorize every single detail on every individual page. We're not asking for that, okay? But what you should do when you read these things, okay, is what actually are the key points or claims that this paper is trying to tell me, okay? Once you have read it, when you come away, what have you learned? Okay, what are they? This is, when you read a lot of these things, sometimes at the beginning, there is an abstract or executive summary. That's what it's for, okay? What is the executive summary? So that you should know, okay? And then even better, what are some of the key findings either surrounding or maybe supporting these claims and key conclusions. Okay, so I don't want to tell you how to read a paper or say, okay, you should read page 1 to page 6, and then from page 12 to 17. That's the kind of stuff they do to my son, and he's 9 years old. Okay, you guys are not. Look at it like this. Okay, imagine this. So you are working on the research desk of some big bank, and there's an FSDC paper just landed on your desk, and you are the IT specialist. So your boss now asks you, okay, hey, you mind to just check this out, have a look at it, and then in the morning meeting, day after tomorrow, just share with all your colleagues what this paper is all about. You read it in that kind of spirit, okay? Because when you become a financial professional, that's what you will be doing, okay? That's what you will be asked to do, practically every week. what are the key points and what are the key findings or research done to support those conclusions and things like that. Okay, so if you can do that, I think you should be in pretty good shape. Okay, is everyone okay with that? Yeah. All right, I don't mind telling you. Okay. So 1 and 2 are more important than 3. Okay, but you can if you want to get a good score, then you should. Anyway, those I read through them and they are interesting to look at. You're going to learn something. Okay, so don't look at it as just an exercise to pass an exam. Okay, or pass the course. Look at it as an opportunity to enrich your knowledge base. Okay, is everyone okay with that? Yeah. Do you have anything you would like to ask me? I'm happy to. Well, everyone is quite happy. Happy is not the right word. Everyone is quite comfortable. Yeah. Maybe you are happy. Okay, now let me. So, like I said, I'm going to go to. I want to just draw your attention. So these tutorial slides will be made available to you very soon. Okay, but I want to just go back to the set of last week. So we already talked about briefly. We touched on P2P lending and the problems they had in the United States and the demographics of P2P borrowers. Typically they are from low income, poor education postcodes, and their debt to income ratio quite often show a significant deterioration after they became P2P borrowers compared to people who are not in that game at all. Okay. We looked at hedge functions, we looked at fiat currencies, we even talked about Tulip Mania. We didn't talk about investment advisory last time, and that's where I'd like to at least draw your attention to that. Is we have I prepared some more notes on this with the help of Bobby, so courtesy of his material. Just try and move that thing up there a little bit. Okay. So now, so this one is related to the automation in wealth management, and actually by about this year or next, Asia Pacific is going to be the world's largest wealth management center, with 61 trillion in asset US dollars, which is bigger than US or Europe. That to me was quite surprising, and growing much faster than the rest of the world. Okay, it's not a secret that a lot of the wealth creation has happened on this wealth creation happening at this part of the world, but I think that the rate at which it has grown, okay, is quite staggering. So in about 12 years time, in China alone, the wealth is likely to be similar to that of the United States. Think of all the opportunities, and this growth bonanza, which means all these opportunities will not necessarily benefit incumbents. It means people who are active now in this segment, like the traditional mutual funds and hedge funds and banks. Okay, it may not be them, because all the different components of the value chain actually are being disrupted by a lot of new technologies, things like Nutmeg that you saw a video on in the lecture. Okay, so it may not be, it could be some platform that you guys end up putting together. Okay, for example, and people, the winners are likely to be either some of the institutions that are in the game now and also new players. Okay, who can use this new technology more effectively. Okay, now Nutmeg. Move this. So you see that some of these slides actually have a reference, a page reference. This one is from lecture 5, page 27. So that is a direct reference to Bobby's material, which would make it examinable. Okay. So we talked about the business model. Now, discretionary, I did say to you, I think 2 sessions ago, that means that there are investment decisions actually being made for customers instead of just giving them a platform for them to do what they want. So, so this is not Nutmeg, it's Nutmeg. I'm sorry, Nutmeg. Okay. So they invest in listed securities, debt, cash, commodities, but mostly via exchange traded funds, ETFs, because it's cheap and it's efficient. Okay. It's an online alternative to stockbrokers, okay, but that you can make your own trading decision. So Nutmeg is providing investors with access to investment management and inspired by the tech world more than the financial sector. Okay. Now, on robo-advisors, so this one is 2 slides later. So this includes all the automated investment platforms that's leveraging technology to lower account premiums and fees. Okay, and these are so robo-advisors. The way, well, I mean, obviously, it's 24/7. Okay, and they try to give you, you know, some investment advice close to what a human, what are they called? FinCon, financial consultants, okay, can actually give you. There is another thing called robo-retirement, which is similar, but they just focus on retirees and their needs, which can be quite different. Okay. Micro investing. So robo-advisory, obviously, once they set up a platform, it can be very cost-effective. But these are other types of platforms that are now coming online, including digital brokerage. Okay. Let me see. So there are some banks that have tried to set up automated investment advisory platforms, including JP Morgan Chase and Goldman Sachs. They invested in a platform called Motif, and then Citibank tried something called Betterment. Okay, so the banks are trying to kind of move into that area as well. Okay, I should say Betterment. Okay. What else can I show you? Okay, so here are some numbers. Okay, now I don't think these were provided in the lecture slides, although Bobby might have talked about it in passing. So in the last 4 years, wealth tech company deals have risen quite quickly. So 2016, there were 98 deals with around $800 million. And 2017, but this was last year. I think he hasn't updated it yet. Okay. So there is a tremendous growth, double-digit growth, and it looks set to be developing fast. Okay. Now, so of all the platforms, robo-advisory platforms receiving investor interest, most of them actually go to the US. In fact, the gap between the first and the second place are huge, 57 versus 9. Okay, so US clearly is still the leader. Okay, the largest deals outside the US went to Huatai. Yeah, Huatai. Okay. Things like that, okay, just a piece of advice for you. So when you read it, don't just say, oh, isn't that interesting? Okay, try to remember some of these market trends, okay, in terms of the midterm, okay. Yeah, so the info is all there, okay. Third and fourth biggest deal, in fact, Nutmeg was one of them, okay. And yeah, CICC. Okay. And then the one that was most well funded actually was a US-based company called Personal Capital. And they raised around $200 million. But the one in Huatai, you guys all know about that one, right? That was the one which was most well capitalized outside of the United States. Okay. I think this is Betterman. Okay. So Germany actually had outside of the United States, they had more active private robo-advisors, outside of the United States, where they had 5 companies. Okay. This can well be an example of something Bobby might ask you. Okay. Which country has the most private? I don't know if there's a question like that. Okay. And then he'll give you countries: Germany, China, Japan, Canada. Huh? Okay. So like I said, actually, where? The top deal to a robo-advisor was 100 million Series E. Not sure. I think this could be in terms of return or performance. Yeah. I need to ask Bobby on that. Okay. Or maybe it won some kind of deal award. I need to find out on that. Okay. So how are robo-advisors likely to transform the advisory landscape? Well, you can get to it anytime, anywhere that you like. It's very user-friendly, and is very scalable, so it's created for scale and for the little guy. Potentially can be far more dynamic, and it's tech driven, so it's easier to make changes. But at the same time, it could be easier to produce an audit trail, which will be good for anti-money laundering, I guess. Okay, and the costs are lower. Okay. Now, InsurTech, there's ZhongAn Insurance. Actually, Bobby gave some more background information here, so I want to share these with you. They were running underwriting losses for 3 years in a row. So they probably failed the listing criteria in that regard. But there was net profit actually in 2014, but a lot of this actually came from investments. Okay, on the underwriting, which is, you take a premium and then you sell a policy. They were making losses 2014, 15, and 16. And in the first 3 months of this year, when he said this year, he really meant last year. So sorry for that. Okay. So that was the what I wanted to tell you last week. Okay. Now for this week, just hold on a second. So we just went through the exam briefing. Okay. So I'm going to try and just give you some more background on these topics that are now flashed up on the screen. Artificial intelligence and machine learning, healthcare, singularity, Netflix and why it has become successful, whereas Blockbuster hasn't. I think many of you haven't even heard of Blockbuster. Okay. So let me just scroll through these. Now, on the topic of AI, so if you care to look at lecture 6, okay, I'll go there now. What page was that? 27. Okay, so it actually, I put that to the other side. You see, some of these, like this one, it just says healthcare. Google is training machines to predict when a patient will die, and then he showed you a video. But there's supplementary material here, which is what I'm providing now. Okay, so this one, it's talking about AI and how, although it is showing some promise, but there are times when it actually does not function as well as you would expect. Okay, I'm having some font problems sometimes here. Okay, for instance, so when they were trying to use AI to screen candidates potentially for a job, they found that, let's say in the IT sector, a lot of female candidates were actually screened out by these AI platforms, and the reason being, so they were looking at past data when humans were actually doing the selection, and they found that there were not very many female who succeeded as a candidate. But the reason for that was because there were less female applicants at the time. Okay, but the platform, those AI programs simply came to the conclusion that maybe women were actually less capable candidates, which is the wrong conclusion to draw. Okay? Now that is actually referenced in that lecture on page 44. Um, which is here somewhere. Yeah, 44 means 22, okay, because he's got two slides per page here. So Amazon fired its resume reading AIs. Well, you can't sack a robot, but it did. For sexism. Okay, that's what that story was about. Okay, why did Amazon decide to put that in the trash bin? Because they were giving incorrect signals. Okay. Um, what else to tell you? Yeah, this is an interesting one. So there was a woman. Now this is page 28, which in your notes would mean page 14. 14. So always divide by 2. Okay. So Google was training machines to predict people with health problems, and in this case, it was to predict the probability of someone dying, actually very close to dying. And this woman came to the hospital to have a scan, and the computers read her statistics and estimated, I think probably the doctors estimated that she had a 9% chance that she was going to die, so 1 in 10 chance, which is not actually that low when you think of it. Then Google uh, ran, uh, a similar analysis, but with a lot more data, and found that, in their assessment, the risk of her dying was actually 2 times the initial diagnosis. She did actually pass away. Okay, so there is sometimes some benefit in that. And there was actually a video. I won't I won't show it here, but I'll just remind you what that video was. Okay, this one. Oh, I can't play it because I'm not connected on the sound. Um, anyway, this is the actual this was so just to remind you what that was all about. Okay, um, Okay, so that's on healthcare. Singularity is meant to describe the event which hasn't happened yet, but people think or fear that one day it might, which is someday in the future when finally we manage to produce a computer, supercomputer. Because this is lecture 632, which means it's 16, 15, 16. Okay, because he just had a slide there, the singularity, but there's actually meaning on that. Okay, so it is when the okay, what's the definition? A future day when exponential development of AI, okay, produces machine intelligence that exceeds all human intelligence combined. Uh, don't know when that'll happen. Um, but just keep in mind that right now, actually, a 6-year-old is smarter than the Google AI and also the one produced by Apple. Okay. I sometimes find I don't know how you should look at stuff like that. Do you remember they talked about the game of Go? How to say Y K 是吧？围棋，OK，围棋，no. Anyway, do you remember? Now you know there was a movie made uh, by I think those Google guys, and you saw the trailer. Bobby showed you the trailer for that. There was a movie made when the the Google AI machine actually beat the South Korean grandmaster. Okay, and it's a very interesting movie. I think it might even be on YouTube free of charge. Okay? Um, and that was big news when it happened to when it took place in Seoul in South Korea. You know there is actually further development to that. Are you aware of that? After that event, did you know that? Okay, so that was a grandmaster in Korea. They took the same computer, I think 6 months later, to China, and they challenged the Chinese grandmaster um, for a series of Go games. Do you know who won? Who won in that contest? Who got beaten and who won? Did you know? No, the computer won. Okay. So now basically there is no person on this planet who can beat that Google program in this game. Now, okay, they say things like a 6-year-old is smarter than Google. Okay, fine, I get it, but I don't think a 6-year-old can beat Google in that game. Now, why is this game significant? You might have missed out in one part of the trailer. They talked about the number of permutations in this game, the number of different combinations and possibilities. Okay, there are more permutations in the game of Go than there are atoms in the universe. The universe. I don't know how they came up with that estimation, okay, but that has to be a pretty big number, okay. So that was why the game of Go was always such a big milestone for artificial intelligence because it is just about the most complex game there is, at least in terms of statistical possibilities. Okay, um, for things like chess, normal chess, that Kasparov was already beaten, like 10, 15 years ago. He was the Russian grandmaster. Okay, so just give you a bit of background on that. Um, on Netflix, okay, so Blockbuster 10, 15 years ago actually was a fairly successful operator of video and DVD rentals. They had stores everywhere. I remember they had stores in the United States, and I lived in Australia at that time, and they had stores there as well. You can go and rent and take it away for the weekend. Um, now, no, I think they went bankrupt, so they really went bust. They really were busted. And so this is just trying to give some explanation as to why Netflix has gone from strength to strength. When Netflix first started, a lot of fund managers had a very negative view on this company, and it was frequently a short-selling target, just like Tesla is now. Okay, so Tesla may yet succeed or fail. I think they had a pretty good couple of days in the last week. Finally, they turn a profit. Okay, so you never know. So don't write off, companies that look hopeless, or don't think just because a company looks really sexy and exotic for now that you think it's going to do well. Okay. Um, so they were able to make use of customer data in a far more dynamic and creative way. Netflix, that is. Okay. And by the time Blockbuster wanted to try to replicate it, it was too late. Um, so that was on the video rental or video streaming business. On healthcare and cybersecurity, so a number of equity deals have happened with new cybersecurity startups, um, and there have been almost 130 startups in the last 5 years, totally raising $365 billion in all. Okay? Um, but the market actually is dominated by, let's say, unicorns. Okay, that means just big existing players, Cyber Reason or CrowdStrike. Haven't heard of these guys before. Cylance. Okay. Um, for AI healthcare, a lot of this growth actually has come from diagnostics and medical imagery. People like GE and 3M are at the forefront of this. And if you can detect early, so obviously that will end up helping people. Um, what else? Exam briefing. So we already talked about this. Okay. Are there any things that you want to ask me regarding the exam? Anything you want to know? Just be sensitive when you are reading Bobby's notes. Okay. Just ask yourself when you review every single page. Does it contain things that potentially he can examine me on? Um, he's actually shared with you more than you think. Okay, especially with the tutorial slides and the commentary that I have been sharing with you. And I did mention not only today, but practically every other time that some of this stuff will be part of the examinable body of knowledge. Okay. Um, So this stuff regarding robo-advisory. Now there are a few companies out there that does this kind of stuff, but let me pick one. There's one called Wealthfront. So at least you get a flavor what robo-advisory actually means. So Wealthfront financial planning and robo-investing for millennials. What is the definition of millennials? There is somebody who is at least a teenager by the year 2000 or something. Are you guys millennials? Do you know what the definition of millennials? Or is it someone who was born after the year 2000? I don't think so. Anyway, so what you can do is, a platform like this. So normally, 10, 15 years ago, you would need to go to they're called FinCon, financial advisors, to get this kind of information. Preferably someone who is CFA qualified. But now, if you just go invest now, for example, okay, and it will ask you what is the primary reason for investing, and you just say, I don't know, general savings, okay. What are you looking for in a robo-advisor? And maybe you want to create a diversified portfolio. Great. At Wealthfront, we'll create a diversified portfolio of 7 or 8 asset classes based on your answers to this questionnaire. Okay? You can actually take this home and really impress your parents. They're going to think that you did it. Okay. What is your birthday? That was not my birthday. It's just how about 1980? Okay, that's not my birthday either, but never mind. What is your annual pre-tax income? Is that enough? I don't know what current. I guess they must mean US dollars. So which of the following best describes your household? Single income, no dependent. Yeah, whatever. What is the total value of your cash and liquid investments? $10 million. Okay. When deciding how to invest your money, which do you care about more? Maximizing gain, minimize losses, maybe both equally. Okay. Actually, these as indicators of risk appetite, I find them to be they're not really refined. Okay, just 3. Oh, maximize gain, minimum loss, both equally. But that's okay. The global stock market is often volatile. Yes, we know that. Yes. If your entire portfolio lost 10% of its value in a month during a market decline, what would you do? This is the kind of question you should ask people, not before they lose 10%, after they lose 10%. Then you go and ask them, they will give you the real answer. Sell all your investments, sell some, keep all, buy more. Okay, buy more. Okay, how about that? But I tell you, asking on paper and really, your behavior at that point are likely to be different. We'll find the optimal plan for your risk profile. Huh? No, not giving you my email address. They still give you some input. Based on your answer, here is your recommended investment plan that aims to maximize your return while managing your risks. Risk score 8.5 out of 10. Is that good or bad? I assume that means I have a high risk appetite. Okay, and it's recommending stocks 35%, American stocks, 26% foreign stocks, 17% emerging market dividend stocks. Okay, these are stocks that pay you a high dividend, I guess, and municipal bonds. I think you can click on these individually and they will tell you leading ETFs for this category. These are things that you possibly can invest in. Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF, VTI. Oh, it's actually recommending you basically just go into the market and iShares. Okay, so you get the idea. What they I don't know if all the inputs are the same, so they'll probably give you a different. Oh no, it's the same. Okay, so foreign stocks. Well, these are all ETF based. So this is a little bit like a nutmeg. Okay, so I think you get the idea. In that regard, well, I guess I can say two things. My immediate reaction is number one is if you really want to be a financial advisor, okay, if you were thinking of that, this is obviously an area you need to keep an eye on because it has potentially the capability of replacing a lot of that work. Okay, so I'm sorry to say this, but when I think something is happening, I should alert you to it. So I think financial advisory may well be an area which can be replaced by robots. But okay, having said that, my advice to you is do not get fooled by all these pretty graphics and really funky interface and very exotic looking charts and pop-ups and stuff. For me, it can be garbage in, garbage out, which is I got no clue how they came up with that model or what's the methodology. It could be a load of complete bullshit. Okay, you don't know that. Okay, so for humans, okay, it's not completely hopeless. And some of these platforms can be very poorly written. How do I know? I haven't seen. It's like a black box. I haven't seen that platform. I don't know how it comes together. And unless we find out, I will retain my doubts on these things. Okay, but I just want to share with you. I thought that's an interesting example. Okay. All right. Is everyone okay with that? Yeah. Yeah. If I can find it, when I find another one, I'll show it to you. There's some more stuff I thought I would share with you on big data. Okay, and this is so this was inspired by an article that I found in the Financial Times. There was this guy called Alberto Cavallo, and I think he's from Argentina, and he wrote an interesting story about how when he was a little boy, growing up in Argentina, and as you know, more often than not, the country basically is always confronted with problems of, very high inflation. And he had a very tough life as a child because the prices were all over the place and they didn't have enough money. They found that the purchasing power of their savings in Argentinian pesos, was always going down every month. What you could buy last month, now you can't buy anymore. So that left a really deep impression on him. So when he grew up, he became a professor in economics, and he started this project in Argentina, which would actually track prices online. And I think I don't know how he did that, but maybe a local equivalent of Amazon.com or something. And he tried to report inflation through online prices, maybe when people order stuff and so on. And then he found that the actual real inflation done on that basis was far higher than what the government officials were reporting, and that's the blue line was his project. So he did that for 10 years, okay? And the end result, what's the end result? The end result was the government actually gave up because no one believed them anymore. They actually believed what this professor was doing. And he started running the Billion Prizes project after that and tried to bring his ideas to other countries, presumably other South American countries, which were having similar problems with data. Okay? So that was one instance. And there is another example here. This one is regarding the United Kingdom. And around 2 years ago when, okay, you can just take a quick minute to read that. Yeah, so this was a case when shortly after the United Kingdom, the people there voted to leave the European Union, sometimes called Brexit. A lot of people were predicting, including Goldman Sachs, that UK would slip into an economic recession. But actually, it hadn't happened. It's now been 2 years. Okay, it hasn't happened. Although a lot of people thought that would, but not everyone was wrong-footed. Not everyone was fooled. Wrong-footed means you went the wrong way. The Schroders, which is a well-known fund manager, so they had in-house a data insight unit that would help them analyze incoming digital information. I assume it's legal. Okay? It must be. Including credit card data that will give you an idea of real-time spending patterns. And although there was a lot of gloom and pessimism around, the data immediately after Brexit showed that the impact was negligible. People were still going out and spending money and buying stuff and having a good time and going to bars and drinking and so on. So we told our fund managers that things looked fine shortly after the Brexit vote. And a few months later, the official data actually confirmed this. Okay? All this digital data can give you a more up-to-date, contemporaneous insights about the economy. So this is kind of what people are moving into. Okay. Okay. I'll put these examples into the tutorial file for this week. There was another one actually. Okay. So this one I just took from the newspaper. It's satellite images of harbors, car parks, roads, and airports can tell you a lot about the movement of goods
and economic activities. Is that really true? Well, there is an entity called Space Node, and they built. This one is actually about China. The satellites are monitoring the Chinese manufacturing facilities. You can't hide, they're up there. So they built this thing called the Satellite Manufacturing Index by taking millions of pictures from more than 6,000 industrial sites across China and using AI. What else? To turn activity patterns into a numeric measure of how well the country's manufacturing sector is doing. Would you trust that more than official reports of what's going on? It's tempting to do that. In fact, when you just looking back, if you compare the manufacturing, the purchasing, the PMI, which is the blue line, so you can kind of see there is a correlation. Of course, the methodologies are entirely different. So the satellite is just looking at from the sky and then try to interpret the data. So they are surprisingly correlated, but the satellite index seems to suggest the downturn was more severe 2 years ago. That to me seems quite believable. The governments don't want to report really bad news. And then the correlation also looks believable as well. Okay. All right. I hope that was interesting.
And if you don't have any questions, I will. I'm going to let you go now. Okay. So this session is all on video, and if you want to review the exam briefing that I gave at the beginning, feel free to do that. I'm recording this also for the benefit of those who normally come on a Tuesday afternoon, and we have people from that session. Thank you for coming. And you can tell your friends who are not here tonight, yeah, thank you, that if they want, this video will be available for viewing shortly, together with all the slides, all of them that I showed you tonight, and all those supplementary notes that was provided alongside the the lecture material. Okay, everyone happy? Yes, it's the end of the day. I'm happy. Okay, thanks for coming, and we'll see you next Tuesday then. Okay, thanks everybody.